got a mulligatawny soup. Which culture is that from? Today's immigrant ancestors came from India. And mulla means hot, and tani means water. It means a hot broth. Fascinating people, these Indians. Now, don't hang up. Don't turn off your set because you think you've already seen the show. You haven't. This is the second show in our series on immigrant ancestors that deal with the Indians, because I think their culture is so fascinating and their food is so delicious that I've just got to do another show for you. So hang with me, please. We're going to use some of the things we made last time, and well, never mind. I'll show you. One of the most interesting things about the nation of India is that it was one of the largest democracies in the world. As a matter of fact, it is the largest, seventh largest nation in the world, and it's the largest democracy. But it's so strange in terms of political makeup. For instance, here's the colors of the flag, and the orange color of the flag is offered the flag by the Hindu who live there. The green is from the Muslims, and the wheel is a common Buddhist symbol. So these images and colors make up the flag. Most interesting people. If you look at the map, you'll see it's a very large nation. And for a long time, boy, now you'll understand why I'm asking you to study your geography. For a long time, I couldn't quite figure out why India had so many Chinese vegetables and so many cooking pieces that looked like Chinese. Well, look at the only thing that separates India from China is Nepal. And Nepal, there, can you see it? Tiny little nation in between. But the rest of the border is right on China. So obviously, since very early times, there's been a lot of trade going on between those two nations. Now, the Chinese are slow to pick up things from other nations. They don't like to do that. But the Indians are open to all sorts of things. Fascinating people. And they've been open to this country. And I'm glad for that. At the turn of the century, we had very few Indians here in America. Most of them came during the severe drought in the Punjab region. But it was only about 7,000 at the turn of the century. And then those people were so, let's be honest, they were so mistreated. Racism was so severe in this culture at the beginning of this century that they were treated just terribly. And new immigration laws were put into effect. In 1923, they couldn't even come. Between 1923 on, it was 1923, the laws were finally recognized as being immoral. And in 1965, they were changed. The new laws meant that since 1965, about 200,000 Indians have come, citizens of India, and many are coming now, and I'm very glad. I wanted some more chefs. I want more Indian restaurants. I love them. What we're getting now, given our new laws, are a lot of doctors and scientists, professors, engineers, brilliant people, business people. I have a favorite friend from India. She teaches cooking in New York City and writes cookbooks. Her name is Julie Shani, and she's trying to teach me to cook. This is her son, Vishal. When she puts together a dinner party, it's just, look at this, it's just heavenly. Oh, she's wonderful. And yes, she is from India. And her comments on her past were just fascinating. I had some questions.
When did you come to this country and why?
I came to this country about 20 years ago, and surprisingly not to cook. I went to school, studied architecture.
Architecture?
Planning, yes.
I didn't know that.
And this was, as many Americans here are doing today, switching professions.
Would you ever have believed that you'd be teaching cooking Indian cooking to Americans?
Oh, I don't think I ever thought that I'd be teaching cooking to anybody, because cooking is not considered teaching, and also cooking professionally is not considered respectable a profession in India.
Really?
Yes.
Well, I don't understand. Why?
Well, it is in middle-class families, it's all right to teach cooking and recipes to your servants, and they do the cooking. And you hire them to come and cook for you the way you want it, but you don't yourself go into the kitchen. You wear, dresses and jewelry and sari and sit and...
You came from an upper-class family then?
Yes, most of the Americans that Indians who have come to this country and who are Americans today, you see, they have come from middle class, and they practice that kind of system.
Mm-hmm. I think Americans are becoming just incredibly fascinated with Indian cuisine, but they're frightened. You know what I mean? They think it's too complex.
Yes.
I know you're a missionary. You're trying to change that because I love your cookbooks, but
yes.
What do you think's happening to Americans?
Well, that's one of the reasons why I switched profession, is because I think most people think of food, Indian food, as just a curry dish and spicy and extremely difficult and really extremely complex to achieve in their kitchen, and it's not. It's very simple, and it's very healthy, and it's hardly any effort at all to cook.
Tell me what you think then typifies Indian cuisine over against more Western cuisines. What are the basic differences? What calm us down, help us relax and cook good Indian food. What are the basic differences?
I think the main difference between American, or what we call as Western cooking, and Indian cooking is the principles are based upon herbs and spices, the aromatics. And you can take any ingredient, inexpensive, like a broccoli head, or inexpensive chicken, anything, and by combining it with wonderful herbs and spices, you can create many tasty dishes which are low in salt, low in fat, and that's what Indian cooking is. And to do that, of course, you have to understand the whole chemistry and the whole secret of how spices act, because every spice is not aromatic.
What's the secret? And you said the word secret. I don't like secrets. Tell me the truth, dear.
The secret is, it's just like today we know that if you add olive oil, it's an oil base, and therefore you cook food in it. It fries, sautés, and all. If you add vinegar to it, it gives a sour taste to it. You cannot fry things in vinegar. You can blanch and poach things in it. So these we know what these elements are. The same thing in Indian cooking.
Basic, yes, sure.
Very basic. The same thing in Indian spices. Certain spices are used as an aromatic. Others are used as flavor enhancers. Some give color. Some give hot taste. Some give sour taste. And these are the things you have to know. Like if you are making a dish and if you add a turmeric, the major ingredient of curry powder, that gives yellow color to a dish.
And a certain bitterness.
Bitterness and woodsy flavor.
Woodsy, that's perfect.
Yeah, it is, because that's what it is. It's kind of rhythm. And if you know the property, it's also an antiseptic. If you know the medicinal property.
Do you ever feel foreign living in this culture as an Indian woman? And you are an Indian woman, you cook Indian, you live. Do you ever feel foreign in this culture?
No, not at all. In fact, if I go to the Indian section, I'm always talking in Indian language, and I feel very comfortable there. And when I'm with Americans, I wear sometimes sari, sometimes the Western clothes, and it's very comfortable.
What about on the IRT subway?
No, not at all. I think what has happened is I have given a lot of myself to the Americans, and they've given a lot to me. And I think not just me, as a whole group. Indians are trying to reach out to the Americans, and Americans are accepting them. So Americans are accepting Indian culture. So you'd find in a party, American women wearing saris. So it's a very wonderful time we're living through now.
I'm most thankful for your insight, not because of your beauty, and I'm very taken by that, but I'm most thankful for the fact that you're really trying to teach Americans to love Indian cuisine, and I just adore it, and you're kind, and I thank you for it. Thank you for it very much.
Thanks.
This is the goddess of creation. I thought Julie was the goddess of creation. Isn't she marvelous? She has a home in New York and teaches and writes wonderful, wonderful books. I showed you last time her book, Julie Shani's book. She's got a book on vegetarian cooking and one on classic Indian cuisine. Shani, S-A-H-N-I, Julie Shani. I love her. All right, let's get into some Indian food. Now, one of the most interesting breads that you can possibly make is called naan. And it takes this, 1/2 cup of yogurt and 1/2 cup of milk. And I've warmed them in the microwave, just let them cool for a minute. For a yeast dough, you should have something about tepid. Tepid means you put your finger in and you go, you don't go, oh, it's hot or it's cold. It's none of those. It's just barely warm. So 1/2 cup of milk and 1/2 cup of yogurt mixed up. Now into that, we're going to add a half teaspoon of baking soda. This will cut down on the acid, you see. And then we're going to add, this is really, really just great fun, some sugar on about Well, come here, you. I want about a teaspoon of sugar. That's about right. And a couple of tablespoons of butter that I've melted. Or you can use ghee. What's ghee? What's ghee? Ah, I'll show you. Let's not use butter. Let me show you what ghee is. Here's ghee. Ghee is butter that has been melted and simmered for a bit so that the milk solids turn a tiny bit off color, and then they settle down to the bottom, and you pour this off. Now you see, in contrast to this, here's butter that's been melted, and you can see the milk solids in it. See that? Well, ghee, this is what makes butter go bad. It's the milk solids. So if you make ghee, as they do in India, it will keep for a long time. Keep for weeks in your refrigerator, or almost weeks just sitting out. So a couple tablespoons of butter, and then we're going to add a couple of beaten eggs. Yes, this is a bread. Oh, it's good. Called naan, N-A-N. It's one of the classic breads of India because you eat with your fingers, and oh, it's fun. And a couple of packages of yeast. And I use a quick rise yeast of some sort. What is this one? This is Fleischmann's? Yes. It's very good stuff. I really enjoy it. All right, 2 packages of yeast. Mix that in. Now, at this point, I would stop and mix this about for a bit, but I'm just going to keep rolling today because we've got lots to do. We want flour now, a regular white flour, and I want about 3½ cups. But let's put the salt in first. We just want just a smidgen of salt. Oh, ½ teaspoon, I think, would be plenty. Right. And then we want to add 3½ cups of flour, and I'm going to add this half first. You see, half of the flour first. I've measured it out already. You remember how to measure flour? When you take a measuring cup and you pound on the metal measuring cup with flour in it and then level it off. I don't sift anything. I haven't sifted anything for years. I just don't see any point in it. All right, so we'll mix this up first of all, getting a batter. There we go, and then later on, come on. And then eventually pour in the rest of the flour. And at that point, I would use my dough hook. And if you have one of these machines, you know what a dough hook is. This will do all the work for you. Making bread is a snap if you have a good machine. All right, I would add the rest of the flour, use a dough hook, and let me show you what happened. Then let it rise, a couple of hours, I suppose. Shouldn't take any longer than that. And we're going to make naan. Naan sounds like no, doesn't it? But that isn't what it means in Indian. The Indian language, you know they speak 15 different languages, not dialects, 15 different languages in India. The Northerners and the Southerners speak different languages, and the regions, Punjab, oh, it's a fascinating culture. It's just fascinating. So here's what the dough looks like after you let it rise for a while. And I don't use plastic lids and all that sort of thing. I just put it on the counter and cover it with a bowl. The stainless steel bowl will do the job for you, and it saves a lot of messing around. Besides, plastic wrap's expensive. I think you can spend more plastic wrap on plastic wrap than you can on insurance if you're not careful. You see what a nice dough this is? It's very soft. It's very, very rich. Isn't this lovely? Look at it now. I want to divide this into about 8 pieces. So I'm just going to grab a chunk and say, oh, that's about an 1/8. You divide it up properly, will you? You divide it up properly. Back under the hood with that one. And roll it out. We're making naan. And this would make an Indian dinner. You see, when you're with the Indians, you eat with your fingers, just as you do in the Middle East. You can use silverware, of course, if you have a formal party. I don't like to eat with my fingers. I just don't do it. I got into a big fight one day with a restaurant owner they're Ethiopian in New York City. And the waitress was just really rude. And what was it called? The blue something. Anyhow, she wouldn't let me eat without using my fingers. And I finally just told her I was either going to leave or I had a fork. And I know, that's not nice. You should try and do in Rome as the Romans do. Well, roll this out into a perfect circle as I've done here. Well, it's kind of like India up here. And then pull it, stretch it out. You see? To make naan, there. The loaf has to be kind of oblong. And I'm going to put this onto a tray. This is so simple. If you don't have one of these, I'll show you what it is right now. If you don't have a bread paddle, you should. You see, it's just a piece of plywood, shaped thusly, has a handle on it. But you see, I have an angle on it here, a beveled edge, so that when when I slide it under something, it will go right up onto it. Now I'm going to put a little flour on this, just a smidgen, not too much. And there we go. We're going to slide the naan into an oven that is 450 degrees, and I'm using, let me show you. These are hot now, so I have to be careful. I'm using bricks that you can buy a set of bricks like this, you see? They're very thin. Aren't they wonderful? See, there's about 8 of them on there, and we'll slide the bread. Isn't that clever? This paddle's a good thing. And into the oven it goes. It'll take, I don't know, I'm probably going to forget about it. You know how I do. I'll probably forget about it, but it shouldn't take you more than a few minutes because the oven is so very, very hot. When you finish with them, when you take them out of the oven, brush the bottom with just a little bit of water so that they stay moist. Isn't this great? And then I brush the top with butter and sesame. We'll try and remember to do this on the one that's in the oven. In the meantime, let's begin gathering an Indian meal here. There. This tray is from India, and I think it's just gorgeous. I don't want to desecrate the flag, so I'm going to take the symbols off right away. You know, people have very strong feelings about their flag. You remember all the arguments that have been going on in all our culture about how the flag should be treated, and for heaven's sakes, if it means the symbol of the country you love, I think you should cool down and treat it well. I really do. Okay, now, the second one I want to show you. This is awfully good. When it comes out of the oven, we'll brush it. I'm going to play with spices. Most of you have heard that Indian food is very hot, and most of you haven't even tried it. It's not so hot, but it is very creative in terms of spices. Now, one of the things that you have to have if you're going to do good Indian cooking is a garam, G-A-R-A-M, masala. No R in that one, M-A-S-L-A. Here's how it's made. At least this is my favorite recipe. Look at this. Look at this tin. This tin is from India. And this is how they would keep their spices. This is the spice, a kitchen spice kit. Is it not gorgeous? All right, I want half a cup of coriander. Now, I'm going to put these things right on a tray because we're going to roast them. That's about half a cup right there. And then I want 1/4 of a cup of cinnamon sticks. And the cinnamon sticks, oh boy, these are too big. I'm going to have to pound them up with my... This piece is fun because it came from China. And of course, in India, you could find something like this. How much do I want? 1/4 of a cup of cinnamon sticks. That'd be plenty. I want to pound these up a bit. You can use some kind of a food processor, I suppose, but this is from China. It's a Chinese pharmaceutical. Look at this. And the leather flap means that nothing can jump out. Isn't that clever? That should be all right. 1/4 of a cup of cinnamon sticks. And we're going to roast all of this in a 275-degree oven. So you keep writing ahead of me here, won't you? And then I want to add 1/4 cup of black peppercorns. Let's see. Here they are. Isn't this fun? You're wondering now, are the flavors going to mix? Well, I think so. The flavors would blend if you just let them sit in here in this little pan. But remember, in an Indian household, you don't have curry powders mixed up ahead of time. You do everything from scratch. You blend these things daily. So you're always refilling the containers. So it shouldn't be such a bad deal at all. A couple of bay leaves. That's more than a couple, but those seem to me be awfully small. 1/4 of a cup of cumin seed. Cumin, here it is. 1/4 of a cup of cumin. That's about 1/4 of a cup. And if you're arguing now about the way I'm measuring, please understand that every family has their own variation on garam masala, which is basic to the kitchen. But you can vary it any way you want. Any way you want. And some cumin. We've got the cumin, and only want 3 tablespoons of whole cloves. 1, 2, 3 tablespoons of whole cloves. And then we want some fenugreek. Where's the fenugreek? Here it is. Fenugreek is common in curries, but you notice we're not using any turmeric yet, so how much do we want? Just a teaspoon. This is a very hard, crunchy spice, and it's very interesting stuff. All right, roast this in a 275-degree oven for 10 minutes. Done. Got that? Incidentally, we're going to take a break now because the bread is done. I just checked. Let me take it out of the oven, show how good it is. My paddle, here it is. You see, isn't this beautiful stuff? It rises up. It rises up just a bit. See, now that's all hollow in there. You don't want to cook it any longer than that. But in order to preserve the flavor of the bread itself, brush the bottom. When you take it out of the oven, brush it with a little water. Ouch. Boy, that's hot. And then put it on the tray. Now, you see you can have it plain, or in this case, I have brushed them with butter and sesame seed. And they have a bit different flavor that way. You can do anything you want. All right, back to the garam masala. Are you with me? We've toasted these herbs and spices. What's the difference between an herb and a spice? Well, this is an herb. It's a bay leaf. Leaves are always herbs, and the rest are seeds, so they're spices. The bark, I'm not sure, and I'll argue about that. All right, roast them. Then at the end of that time, we want to put in, we take them back out of the oven, let them cool down. We put a teaspoon of turmeric, a 1/4 teaspoon of ground nutmeg, 1/4 teaspoon of ground nutmeg, there we are, and 1 tablespoon of red pepper flakes. Where are they? Here we go. Tablespoon of red pepper flakes. Grind all of this up. And you have, put it in a food processor, grind it first, or I have better luck in a food blender. But the best luck I have is in something that is called a coffee grinder, you see? One of these little rascals. You put everything in here and grind it all up until it looks like, well, let me show you, until it looks like this. And you have garam masala. Keep this covered. You can even refrigerate the stuff. You can do that too. But, oh, it's important. For instance, when you're making samosas, you just got to have this in your kitchen if you're going to be an Indian cook. There's no way out. When you're making samosas, you want to make a blend of, here we are, of potatoes and onions. Look at this. Potatoes and onions with some peas in it. And you put this in a little bit of, a little envelope of pastry and deep fry them. Let me put them out. I've got a whole pile of them here. And these have garam masala in them. And they're a wonderful, wonderful dish. There. This is the deep fried bread, you see. Lots of breads in India. Let me show one more. And this is very important. This is the chapati, which you can make at home. There's nothing to it. It's a whole wheat kind of pancake sort of thing. It's just delicious. Craig, we're going to have to start dishing up. What's coming here? We've got so many things. I'll get some rice out and I'll do the lamb vindaloo. What have you got down in that one?
I think there's some corn in there.
Okay, you
That's
get that
cooked
one.
with yogurt.
Okay, just a second here. We need to dish up some mulligatawny soup. The rice that we're cooking is basmati, B-A-S-M-A-T-I, basmati rice. It's the most wonderful thing in the rice world. I really think it's my favorite rice. It's very different than Western rice in that it has a kind of nutty flavor. I don't mean crazy, I mean nutty. I mean delicious. Here it is. That one's ready.
Boy, is it ever.
Isn't it good? Just a second. Sure.
Yogurt.
Go ahead and put that right out. Okay. And explain that, will you?
Well, it's just frozen corn kernels. It's been simmered with yogurt, some jalapenos, and typical spices from India.
Doesn't that look good?
It's delicious.
And here's a lamb vindaloo. This is a lamb and potato stew. That's wonderful. Do I have a chicken one there?
Chicken vindaloo?
Please? Here, you want to dish that up?
Sure.
Okay.
Set that right down.
And while you do that, I'm going to dish up some mulligatawny soup. Now, mulligatawny means that it's, as I told you earlier, it's simply hot pepper water. But, oh, is it good. Put lots of vegetables in there. Isn't that beautiful? Find a bowl here. I'm doing all of this with stainless steel because that's the way the Indians do it. They love stainless steel. And they make some of the best stainless steel in the world.
There's a nice one there.
Isn't that great?
Beautiful.
Okay. Look at the chicken. Chicken and lamb vindaloo. And here on the tray is a dish of mulligatawny soup. Now, I have one more here on the stove that we've got to try right now. And it's a dish of shrimp masala with the masala sauce. And look at the color. Doesn't it look terrible? But this frying pan is so neat. This is very much like a Chinese wok. Now, once I get it out of this pan, it'll look good, you see. And obviously, this pan came to India from China. The shrimp are just delightful. All right, there's something missing here. You cannot eat this food without chutneys. The Indians make the most wonderful pickles. Pickles put in oil. Let me show these to you. Things that you eat along with your food and your rice and your fingers and your bread. Pickles in oil, assorted pickles in oil. These are mangoes. And this is assorted vegetables and oil. This is a peach and raisin chutney that I made. And this is a mint chutney. And you put a little of this on your plate, and you take some of this wonderful bread, or you have a samosa, the breads, or the samosa, you see, and a little corn cooked in yogurt, or a chicken and lamb vindaloo, some mulligatawny soup, some wonderful shrimp cooked with garam masala, and then mix this up in your mouth and in your heart with curry. And you know you've been to India. Wonderful people, brilliant culture, food that's incredible. This is the Frugal Gourmet. Until I see you again, I bid you peace. Bye-bye.